There's a star man running down the right. His name is 𝗤𝗍𝗫 Baldock. He's fucking dynamite. There's a star man running down the right. His name is 𝗤𝗍𝗫 Baldock, and he's fucking dynamite. Oh, let the children boogie. Let the children use it. Let all the children boogie.
Welcome everybody to the Sheffield United Way. It is with great sadness that we are here today and that we are bringing this video to you, as earlier this week we learned of the tragic passing of George Baldock at the age of just 31. Now this is a video, it's a tribute that none of us ever really wanted to make, and it's really difficult to try and think about how to put into words a man like Baldock and what he meant to not just the Sheffield United Football Club, but what he obviously meant to everybody who knew him and everybody whose life has been touched by George Baldock. We have taken some time to gather our thoughts before doing this because we really wanted to make sure that those closest to George, his family, his friends, his teammates, and of course, you'll have seen in recent days the tribute from 𝗏𝗏𝗏, we wanted them all to be able to make their heartfelt tributes and for those to be the real key memories that people have and the first tributes they hear about George Baldock. If you did want to sort of catch with some of those, the United manager, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, who brought George to the club all those years ago, he shared some really beautiful memories and thoughts about him on Sheffield United social media earlier this week. Now, from my perspective, it's been really hard to comprehend doing a video, doing a tribute to someone who has just touched the hearts of every United fan in the way that Baldock did. Now, I think my dad summed it up perfectly on Thursday morning once the news had sunk in just a little bit, where he said, if I had ever been good enough, I like to think that I would have played with Baldock's spirit and Baldock's desire. He always played the game just like he was a fan. And I think that sums up how, as a footballer, he touched us all so much, how he meant so much to everybody who is of a Sheffield United persuasion, because he gave everything that he got to the club and he always tried to make sure that the club came first. Now, as a player, he was part of some of the most unbelievable memories that we will have as a group of football fans. There's the two awesome promotions to the Premier League. There's a run to an FA Cup semi-final. And then there's arguably the season that will never be bettered. The connection we had with that team, what they achieved going on to finish 9th in the Premier League, but what they'd achieved before that, that is ultimately incredible, and it immortalises everybody who was a part of that team. And it's from that season that my ultimate memory of Baldock, it's of a game. We were away at Wolves. We'd taken the lead about 90 seconds in, and then Wolves had just come at us. And to be honest with you, we were just getting beaten. They were the much better team. They were really taking us on, particularly Adama Traore. Nobody could get anywhere near him. You couldn't even get close to him other than George, who just took it upon himself so that every single time that Traore got the ball, he would stand him up. He would be as close as possible. He would try and win the ball early. And if all of those things failed, he would just grab as much of that baby oil covered shirt that Traore wore and he would just hold it for as long as he had to. Now, whether that was until Traore passed it, whether that was until somebody else took the ball off him, whether it was till George took the ball off him, whether it was until the ref gave a foul, it was glorious. And I think it sums up everything that my dad was trying to say in terms of that spirit and passion that Baldock always played with, because that was right there in a nutshell was his commitment. It was his passion for United. It was the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that he could sometimes display at times, but it was also that dedication to making sure that it didn't matter about being booked. It didn't matter about giving fouls. It didn't matter that on Match of the Day they were going to say, oh, look at this, they've always got a hold of him, because it was all about a dedication to stopping Traore getting past, stopping Wolves scoring and making sure that United win, because the club always came first. And as I say, I think that just sums up who George Baldock was and what he did for Sheffield United, because the club always came first and he always played with that passion, that commitment, that dedication to make sure that anything that he could do to make us successful, he would always do every time. And that creates such an emotion and such a connection with the fans. That's the things that the fans saw every week and loved and cared about and wanted to see this man, even as he left the club last summer, be successful. We all wanted to cheer him on as he went on to play for Greece, to represent a country, to go and play in Greece and really try and find that community that he got there. And that we just loved him for all of those things that he'd done and all of the things he demonstrated on that one afternoon. Even though it wasn't a highlight reel game, it was the one that always sticks in my memory for everything that it showed in terms of his way of playing the game, but also his passion for the game. But that doesn't touch the sides of the man that George Baldock was. The kindness that he has shown to fans of United in terms of providing support to them to make sure that they could continue playing the game, to make sure they can continue accessing, in terms of being just a friendly, nice presence whenever you bumped into him in or around the ground or at any other point in his life. From the tributes that we've heard and from what we've seen from the outside, that same commitment and passion that he had for football, he had 10 times over for his family and for his friends. And that made him more than a special footballer that we want to remember, that we're paying tribute to, but he's actually a special man, and he's somebody who should always be remembered and loved for what he was and who he was. And that's why he mattered. It's why he got into the hearts of all of the United fans, and it's why he will forever be a Blade, and one that we will always have and love as one of our all-time greats. Now, this loss has touched everyone, and it isn't just us. I referenced it there that George left us last summer, but his impact is well beyond Sheffield United, because you've seen the tributes coming from Greece, from some of his old clubs. I've got a friend who's an Oxford fan who has been hit really hard by this, obviously, from the time that Baldock had spent with them. And so you can see across the entire football world just what he meant to everybody and every team that he'd represented at all of those times, because everybody recognised that same thing about him, that was just he was somebody that you could love. Now, I'd like to turn it over to some more of our Sheffield United fans, some more Blades fans who have come together to share their memories of George and give us their favourite moments of his time with the Blades.
I'm not very good at these sorts of things, and tried to write some stuff down and then thought it's probably just got to be from the heart, probably just got to be that kind of tribute. George Baldock epitomised everything it meant to be a Blade. He set the standard for his teammates. I remember seeing him at MK Dons and thinking, that right back looks pretty good. For us it was a bit of a party time, but he still stood out. My personal favourite, 𝗬𝗽liche away, his goal. It's such a good goal. I feel like if it was shown more often on like those compilations, lots of these Premier League fans that don't really know a lot about our players would be like, wow, that really was a special goal. Of course, also Carrow Road, his part in the iconic 𝗤𝗏 𝗔 celebration with 𝗤𝗏𝗲 𝗕, his last goal against Cardiff. I mean, so many moments like that, but also the fact that when he was at the top flight in the Premier League, he never looked out of his depth. One-on-ones against some of the best players, and he was always up to it. And his celebrations, like not just on the open top bus, but fist pumps, and the way he was with fans, the way he always made time for fans, how he looked after Sander during COVID. Of course, Sander had moved away from family and friends, was kind of on his own. George took him under his wing, and I think that really was the mark of the man. And it's tragic. Words that someone like me says won't mean a great deal. I feel like this is just a way that us as fans can kind of share how we feel with an outpouring of love for someone that many of us never even knew, but that meant so much to us. The brightest stars burn the fastest, so we must love them while we can, and we'll always love our star man.
Words to sum up the passing of George Baldock and my memories of George will not do George justice. Everyone has said how on field he was committed, passionate, 100% given every single time and more. When he wasn't playing, he was in the stands with the fans. He truly was one of us for 7 years. Off the field, such a nice guy. He'd always stop for autographs, photographs, and my memories of him would be a cheeky little wink or a little wave with that smile on his face. This week has shown that it's not just the world of Sheffield United, not just the world of football, but the world as a whole who appreciates what a great guy George was, and this tragic accident means George is not to be forgotten. Rest in peace, Starman.
Hi there, my name's Bobby. Some of you may know me as Bobby in the background from previous on this channel. And today I regrettably have to talk about the unexpected news, the tragic news of the passing of George Baldock. He was a hero to me. We grew up in the same town of Buckingham. He lived 10 minutes just down the road in a village called 𝗤𝗄𝗏. We went to school together. His mum was the deputy assistant head teacher at my school at the time. And now his number 2 Sheffield United shirt with the door deal sponsor on the back proudly hangs above our PE office. It's news that shocked the whole of the town. News that none of us would have ever imagined, ever expected at his age, just 30, 31. I think we can all look back on him as an incredibly kind, generous person who had the time for everyone, as well as the gritty, tenacious right back that he was at Milton Keynes, Oxford, Northampton, as well as Sheffield United. And, an international footballer from this area is completely unheard of. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't. And for him to go and play in the Premier League, play on the international stage for Greece, is beyond imagination. So, the news is so sad, so unexpected, and now it's time to remember the great person that he was.
Passion. That's the first word I'd use to describe George Baldock. Passionate for his team, passionate for the game, passionate for his family as well. And passion can come in different ways, can't it? And we saw passion come out in that Furious George persona more times than not. And who wasn't on the receiving end of it sometimes? Linesmen, refs, opponents, teammates. But it's part of who he was. And it's part of what made him so loved by the Sheffield United fan base. And he really was just part of the fabric after 7 years. You just knew what you were going to get from him on the pitch and off. He was always going to put a shift in. He was always going to give 100%. And he was always going to be gracious and willing to spend time with his fans. My favorite memory of him is that goal against Norwich, the twisting, turning, great finish, and then the celebration afterwards, running to his team, running to the bench to celebrate with his teammates. And obviously it'll always be ingrained in our mind, seeing him side by side with John Egan the first time we saw and heard the 𝗟𝗟𝗍 song. So tough day, tough week for all Blades. We're left with great memories from a great player, great man, and may George rest in peace.
Like all Blades fans, I was deeply saddened to hear of the tragic passing of George Baldock earlier this week. My thoughts are with his family and friends at this time. Over the 7 years that George was a member of the United team, he really epitomised what it meant to be a Blade and to wear the red and white stripes. George won't just be remembered for the type of player he was, but also the type of person he was. And I think it's because of things like this and his exceptional fan engagement is why he's cemented himself into the memories of so many different United generations. There'll be so many memories shared about George, but the ones that stick in my mind is the wonderful goal he scored against Swansea, the 2 promotions that we've celebrated, and also how he was always the first player to come over and celebrate a goal or a win with the fans in such a passionate way. I'd just like to say thanks, Starman, and rest in peace.
There have been some difficult moments for the Blades community and family in recent times. We first had the passing of 𝗍𝗵𝗏 𝗓𝗏, then there was Johnny from Shoreham View, and then we've lost our beloved George Baldock. But if there's one thing that's shone through throughout all that period with losing loved members of that community is how that Blades family come round and give tribute and remember those that we've lost. And obviously I didn't know George personally, but he picked up a few nicknames along the way which sort of made us all love him and respect him as part of the Blades community and wider family. You've got the angry George side, which always showed that passion and desire to win, battling for the team and the fans. There's the Starman side to him. He's part of that Fab Five at the back during the previous Wilder era, a marauding right wing back with clever and insightful runs. And one of those springs to mind is that 5th goal against Burnley where he just ghosted him behind and then it led to McBurney scoring. And, you know, just moments of sheer quality. I mean, who can forget that goal against Swansea when he just pinged it in? And then there's the gorgeous George side to it. Aside from the fact he was a good-looking chap, the personality of the guy, you know, I've read and heard stories this week where he helped fund a defib device to a young blade. I'd seen that he was a supporter of rainbow blades, and just generally thinking of others. I read another story where, you know, he just got a card for his ex-physio's wife when she fell pregnant. Just little touches which I think speak volumes about the personality that George was. So my best wishes and condolences to those who knew him personally. I know it's awful and can't imagine what you're going through, but the Blades community, fan base, we're all there for support, including the club, and we will remember him, definitely. He will be one of the legends of the lane, that's for sure.
Well, just when you think you've had the worst week ever in your life, we lose Johnny, and then what happens? We lose possibly definitely my favourite fullback of all time, 𝗬𝗲𝗲 thereabouts, but what a man George were. He always gave everything for the Blades, always. Gorgeous George, angry George, what a player, what a man. We're going to miss him terribly. I know he don't play for us anymore, but he were always welcome back at Bramall Lane and always would be. Sorry about this, going to miss you, George. Up the Blades.
Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to share your thoughts, to share your condolences and your messages of support in the comments below. This is a hopefully safe space for everybody who wants to share or wants to find some community to talk this through with. It's a really difficult time, and we want to make sure that anybody who needs it has got that opportunity to find a space that they've got people to talk to, where they can really go through and help themselves with that grieving process. As we know, this has hit all Sheffield United fans really hard. We will be reading each and every message that is come and put into the chat below this conversation, and we hope that George's family and George's friends also find some comfort in seeing just how deeply he was loved by all of the Sheffield United community, and how much this loss is being felt by all of the fans and will be continued to be felt by all of the fans in Bramall Lane for a long time to come. Our thoughts, our prayers are with everybody who knew George, and especially with his family and with his friends that loved him. Thank you for watching this video, but more importantly, thank you for everything, George Baldock. We love you.
Let the children boogie, let the children use it, let all the children